Well, it's the day after Christmas. I thought I'd do a little editorial about the importance or maybe non-importance of the Patterson-Gimlin film. I am definitely a big advocate of the Patterson-Gimlin film being the real thing. I've met Bob Gimlin several times, and I've spoken to the man personally. And I've asked him questions, and he's always been quick with an answer. Um, I think that he's very sincere. He's very believable. I think the PG film is real. That's just my personal opinion. But that's all it is. It's just a personal opinion. It doesn't mean it is the real thing. It just means that's my personal opinion on it. I think the Patterson-Gimlin film is important, but I don't think it should be overall important. When I say that, I mean that I don't think Bigfooters should make it their primary focus of their research. If they do that, they fall into the trap of, let's say, God forbid, it's proven a hoax. Let's say the Patterson-Gimlin film is proven a hoax. Then all their reasoning for being interested in this subject is gone, and they'll think, and they'll if they put too much importance on the Patterson-Gimlin film and think, well, if the Patterson-Gimlin film's not real and Bigfoot's not real either, then they'll fall into that trap. They'll drop out of the field if the film is ever proven a hoax, and that'll be it. They'll be gone. They'll be done. Which is why I think the people should be very careful not to fall into that trap. Don't fall into the trap of making the PG film the overall important thing, because we could be wrong. It is only my personal opinion the Patterson-Gimlin film is real. It's Bill Munns's opinion the Patterson-Gimlin film is real. He's basing it on scientific research he's done into the film, and some of the measurements and photogrammetry, things like that he's done into the film. Other researchers who've done research into the film, they have determined it's real, but it's only their personal opinion. It's only personal opinion. Doesn't mean it is real. Personally, we think it's real. We think it shows a real Sasquatch. I think it shows a real Sasquatch, but it's only personal opinion. The thing is, we may never have an answer to that mystery one way or the other. We may never have a mystery as to whether there was a shooting there or not. We may never have an answer to the mystery of, was Bob Hieronymus in a suit? Was anybody in a suit at Bluff Creek that day? The only living person that knows is Bob Gimlin. And Gimlin's given interviews where he's pretty much given the same story. But just because you can say something for 40 years doesn't mean it's true. Or just because you believe something for 40-something years does not mean it's true. Hieronymus has believed for a long time that he was the guy in the suit. Does that make him truthful? No. Certainly he passed 2 polygraphs, but as we all know, polygraphs are not admissible in court. They're not infallible. Roger Patterson passed a polygraph in 1970. Doesn't mean he was doesn't mean they're infallible. Doesn't mean he was telling the truth. That doesn't mean he's lying either. Doesn't mean he's lying. Because we're always going to be it's always going to be a bone of contention. It's always going to be a center of controversy. I feel like John Bindernagel on Bigfoot's Reflection when he says, so I don't raise that film anymore. It's very sad, but it gets you into a whole he said, she said kind of thing. And I agree. I don't really raise the film all that much anymore. I look into the footprints and the footprint morphology and the sighting reports and also the audio recordings. The audio sounds, I think. I think there have been some really, really chilling sounds that have come out of different areas of the country. Some chilling sound recordings, and I've heard some of them. The footprint morphology, I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty stable. I mean, certainly there is controversy over the footprints. There's controversy over sound recordings. There's controversy over every aspect of the Sasquatch phenomenon, but none more so than the Patterson-Gimlin film. The Patterson-Gimlin film, there is a lot of controversy about it. I wish that wasn't so, but it is what it is. I think until a body is brought in, and I hate to say that, but until a body is brought in, we're not, and it matches up with what the creature in the Patterson-Gimlin film looks like, we're not going to know one way or the other. We're still going to be left in the dark. And I mean, I hate to see researchers spending the next 40 years spinning their wheels going back to the Patterson-Gimlin film. That's not to say it's not important. I think it is important, but let's put it in perspective. It's not overall important. Overall important is that there is a phenomenon to be solved regardless of the authenticity or perhaps lack thereof of the Patterson-Gimlin film. Just because I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Just because the Patterson-Gimlin film is a hoax does not mean that Sasquatch does not exist. I think that there are researchers that need to realize that. I think the Patterson-Gimlin film is a separate issue from Sasquatch, from Bigfoot. Much as if, let's say, Roswell is not real. Let's say if Roswell was all a hoax or it was just a weather balloon, it does not invalidate the entire UFO field. If, let's say, there are ghosts, if, let's say, there's a ghost photo that's been hoaxed or a ghost video that's been hoaxed, it does not completely invalidate the entire argument for the existence of ghosts. So, I think the Patterson-Gimlin film is real. I think it's a real Sasquatch, but that's only my opinion. It's only an opinion. And I'm no better than anybody else. I'm no worse than anybody else. It's only an opinion. Until we actually know what Sasquatch is and what it looks like, as far as having a a skull on the table, as it were, or having a body, which, I mean, I hate to say that, but that's what it's going to take. And I have said many times, personally, I'm not going to be the one to supply that body. But even I acknowledge that's what it's going to take. But again, the Patterson-Gimlin film might be real, might not be real. Regardless, there is a mystery to solve separate from it. And I hope a lot of people will remember that. As far as a so-called massacre, there might have been one, there might not have been one. We don't know for sure. I mean, I realize I've come out in the past and, you know, and kind of, I realize in the past I've come out against the massacre because there may not be any evidence for it. But I've spoken to some people in recent weeks who have said that they have seen things shown to them by a certain researcher, and I won't say who. They have seen things shown to them by a certain researcher that indicates that there may have been more that happened on that day than we may realize. And that, well, I may as well just say who the researcher was. It was M.K. Davis that showed these people this stuff. And these people, the people that I heard this from, I don't think they're lying. I don't think they are making something up. I think that they are very credible people. They have seen something in that footage. They have seen something that M.K. Davis has shown them, which has not been shown to the world just yet. I'm only going by what I've heard from those people. That's all I'm doing. I'm only going by what I've heard. I have not seen this evidence myself, so could it be true? I don't know. We'll never know one way or the other if there was a so-called shooting or massacre or whatever. We'll never know if the PG film is real or not. Let's concentrate on the here and now. I think that's the point I'm trying to make here. Let's just concentrate on the here and now. Let's concentrate on getting out in the field now. Let's leave the analysis of the Patterson Gimlin film to, Bill Munns, Chris Murphy, Daniel Perez, all that. Let's start getting the fresh evidence, the new evidence, out in the field, which is, I think it's important. I think it's very important to get the fresh evidence rather than looking at stuff that happened 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I'm sure that those who subscribe to my channel and who will see this video will agree with me. We need to get out in the field now and do our thing now rather than relying on old evidence. Let's collect some new evidence. And you never know what you might find.